Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to episode number 2 of Battle of the Rookies 2. I am your host, Game & Soy, and we have 4 more fights to fill out round 2 to finish off round 1. 4 robots have already moved on into round number 2, where they have completely destroyed, battered, and eliminated the 4 robots that have been sent home. Some very interesting robots have already moved on to the second round, including Parallel Paradox, Counter Blitz, Frostwave, and the one upset winner, Destiny Bond. We have 8 robots left for round number 1 to complete, including the number 1, number 2, number 3, and number 4 seed all fighting tonight. We will see the highly anticipated fight between Nightman Cometh and Crimson Knight Blues, which a lot of people are rooting for the number 16 seed from what I could tell, but definitely I could see a lot of people thinking the number 1 seed is going to win. Prince Ollie will also be making its debut tonight against a flipper, the Gobbler. A very interesting matchup of a flipper's delight where I'm just not quite sure who I think is going to win. It's going to come down to the wedge game, as Brick and I have discussed previously. The number 3 seed, El Tigre, my personal favorite robot of this tournament, will be fighting the number 14 seed Blunt Force. Debatably the most powerful hammer that RoboMania has ever seen. And of course, the number 4 seed Solar Flare will be taking on the Crusher bot, HippoBotamus. We'll be diving more into detail about all 4 of these fights that are remaining, but first, let's jump into everybody's favorite moment of the episode, the rules of the arena. Each fight will be a total of 3 minutes long, including main events and championships. Each minute, the judges will award the winning robot a total of 10 points, while the opponent receives 9 points or fewer, depending on the dominance of that minute. The judges will base their scorecards on damage, control, and aggression, which means a robot must follow all 3 of these criteria in order to win. In order for a robot to win a fight, it must destroy, immobilize, or eliminate the opposing robot before the fight timer is up. If the fight were to end after all the time is up, then it will go to a tiebreaker where the judges will determine a winner based off of their scorecards. There are 4 total ways to win a fight in RoboMania. A robot can knock out the opposing robot, which means it completely destroys the opponent and prevents it from working. A robot can win by technical knockout or TKO, which means it can simply prevent the opponent from moving for a total of 10 seconds of the in-game timer. A robot can also win by elimination, which means it can punt or flip the opposing robot over the arena walls and out of the arena. If a robot can't complete either of these finishes before the fight timer is up, then the judges will take over from there and declare a winner. As I was saying, there are 4 total fights left to complete round number 1 to move into round number 2, and we are starting out with El Tigre versus Blunt Force. Both of these robots are really good when it comes to their own weapons. El Tigre is just a powerful robot that can completely knock out any of these robots in the top 16. The only thing you have to worry about with an overhead spinner is if it gets hit against the wall, it's going to be flying everywhere and it could do damage to itself. Now it's going up against Blunt Force. As I said, it seems to be the most powerful hammer in RoboMania history, but there's only one way to tell when that fight comes. Blunt Force is going to have to somehow get its hammer down in between the weapon of El Tigre to cause damage to those juicy internals that it's going to be aiming for. Other than that, that's the only way I could see Blunt Force winning this fight. After that, we will see Solar Flare, the number 4 seed, take on HippoBotamus, the number 13 seed. As I said earlier in the selection show, I believe that this is going to be an offensive versus defensive fight. Solar Flare has a ton of output when it comes to damage, and HippoBotamus, in my opinion, can take a lot of damage and still continue to move forward. It's going to come down to aggression, which I believe, call me crazy, I think it's going to lead in favor of HippoBotamus in this one. As long as it can survive those hits, it's going to be interesting to see if HippoBotamus can take control of this fight. After that fight, we will see the number 1 seed making its debut, Crimson Knight Blues, taking on Nightman Cometh. I've said this before and I will continue to say it unless it happens. The number 16 seed has never won in the first round. So I don't know if that puts a lot of pressure on the 16 seed or more pressure on the 1 seed, because this fight could be an absolute brawl. We have to note that Nightman Cometh has 1 wheel. That's it. And if that wheel's gone, it is going to lose this fight. But it is a very weird robot, and it could get around the corners that most robots cannot do based off of that 1 wheel drive. And CKB, we already know what this robot is about. Power, destruction, and aggression. That's what we're going to see from this robot, and I think that's the only way that it can win this fight. And to cap everything off for tonight's fight card, we will see Prince Ali, the number 2 seed, taking on the 15 seed, the Gobbler. I've said it before, it's a flipper's delight. It seems like we've always have at least one flipper's delight when it comes to the Battle of the Rookies tournament. And of course, here we are, topping off round number 1 with yet another flipper's delight. And you've also heard me say this many times, it's going to come down to the wedge game. Whoever is lower is going to win this fight, in my personal opinion. And we also have to keep in mind that shock damage is a thing now. Both of these robots can cause serious damage to the internals of either robot. I'm getting word that the first 2 robots are ready to start fighting, and let's jump right into it. For our first fight of the night, we will see a hammer take on a spinner. In most cases, the hammer will lose this, but Blunt Force will look to stay aggressive against one of the most powerful spinners the Battle of the Rookies has ever seen. Here we go, guys. Our first fight of the night, which is going to be El Tigre versus Blunt Force. A horizontal spinner, the overhead horizontal spinner, will take on a hammer robot. I'm very interested to see how this fight is going to go. Fighting out of the red square, we have the hammer robot and the 14 seed Blunt Force. This is by far the most powerful hammer that I have ever witnessed in a battle. It is just completely deadly when it comes to when that hammer makes contact. In its way though, we have El Tigre, who is fighting out of the blue square, the number 3 ranked robot, and it's a very deadly one. It will make sure that when it hits the opposing robot, it will make sure to try to knock it out at any time given. 3, 2, 1. Let the match begin, and we are getting into this first fight, and instantly El Tigre goes flying a little bit, but now it comes back and trying to take on that big wedge in front of Blunt Force. However, I don't think Blunt Force can really make contact with El Tigre. It's losing a bunch of wedgelets in the process. Oh, this is going to be interesting to see. El Tigre gets underneath, rips off a wheel, and now there's smoke and sparks coming out of Blunt Force. That can be the knockout blow. And El Tigre is still being aggressive, making sure that there is no way Blunt Force can come back from this. There could be a shot that sends Blunt Force back on its wheels. It lost one of them, but I think it could still drive. The countdown has begun, and we might be seeing an early knockout already. 3, 2, 1, and that is it! El Tigre, winner by knockout. Are you kidding me right now? I mean, I guess we kind of saw that one coming. I expected Blunt Force to make a little bit more of an impact in this fight, but El Tigre just constant aggression that just would not stop, just completely shredding off wedgelets. And this was a shot that got underneath, knocked over, took out a wheel. Oh, very deadly. There's where the smoke and everything came out. El Tigre was just relentless during this fight the entire time. I am honestly surprised, but not at the same time. And with that, El Tigre will move on into the second round, where it'll face our first matchup of round number 2. It will go up against the underdog who caused the first upset, Destiny Bond. A very impressive performance by El Tigre there, just like I said, non-stop aggression, which ultimately led in its favor to just completely get the knockout on Blunt Force. We're seeing a lot of one-sided fights thus far, and again, it happened to Blunt Force in this loss. It could not get a single shot down, maybe the first shot, but that was it. We didn't really get to see how that hammer can truly operate under pressure because it was upside down in the first 30 seconds of the fight. So with that being said, Blunt Force is being sent home, and El Tigre will move on into the second round where we have our first matchup. Now that is a very interesting matchup from what I can see so far. We have a vertical versus overhead spinner matchup. I can definitely see Destiny Bond being the Cinderella story for this tournament. It's going to be interesting. It could possibly pull off the upset, but I don't know. El Tigre looks really good right there. And it sucks, doesn't it? My two favorite robots are meeting each other in round number 2. That's cool. That's really cool. The winner of this fight will move on into the semifinals, where it'll almost be guaranteed a contract as long as it doesn't lose 2 in a row from there, into the RoboMania Fighting League. 1 fight down and 3 to go. Let's jump into our next fight. The saying offense wins games, but defense wins championships will be tested here today. The aggressive Solar Flare will look to shred apart the very controlling and resistant HippoBotamus in a fight that should excite. I am very interested to see how this one's gonna come out. We have Solar Flare taking on HippoBotamus in a fight. Like I said, I'm going to say it again, offense versus defense for this one. Heavily favorited Solar Flare. We'll see how it does. Fighting in the red square though, we have HippoBotamus, a robot that is very, very resistant to any sort of damage. It'll look to try to clamp its jaws down on any other robot and just push it around. That's its job, and we're going to see if it's going to be able to do it against the favorite. Fighting out of the blue square, we have Solar Flare. This robot was created to just have as much bite as humanly possible, and we're going to see if it can actually win in tonight's fight. 3, 2, 1. Let this fight begin. Solar Flare, HippoBotamus, the 4 versus 13 seed, and instantly we have an impact that HippoBotamus went to the corner of Solar Flare. Seems like HippoBotamus is being a little aggressive now. A huge hit right there from Solar Flare. As you can see, it's getting hit hard, but it's not really getting sent back, which is crazy. HippoBotamus is on another level of defense, and we're gonna see if it can control it. Almost did there, but not quite. It seems like Solar Flare is just a big robot that is gonna try to somehow take control of. I don't think it can. Are you kidding me right now? Another decapitation. The Battle of the Rookies is known for decapitations, apparently. What? I said it in my last one. Blur your eyes, children. This is insane. We have another decapitation. Solar Flare rips off the head of HippoBotamus, and now it is just a wedge, I guess. It's not even a wedge, it's just a pusher. Can it control though? We're gonna have to see. It seems like it's doing pretty good, but when your head flies off, I don't think the judges are gonna really look at that as a good thing if this goes the distance. Solar Flare is kind of just chipping pieces off of HippoBotamus, and we're about halfway through this fight now, and one major event in this fight has happened, and it was HippoBotamus losing its head. The one thing that it cannot afford to lose has been ripped off. Now we're gonna have to see if HippoBotamus can somehow pull a red dragon. When its head got decapitated multiple times in multiple fights, it got better, which is weird. It turned into a wedge robot, and now it does seem like HippoBotamus is controlling a little bit better, but it's taking damage at the same time. It's pushing Solar Flare right now. Can it push it against the wall? It does a little bit, nothing crazy. Another huge hit by Solar Flare, which actually takes another piece off of HippoBotamus. Oh no. We have 40 seconds left in this fight, and it's a weird one. I have to say, it's a weird one so far. HippoBotamus is getting pieced apart, but it doesn't seem like it's taking that much damage besides that one shot where it lost its head. 25 seconds, and it might go to the judge's decision, to be honest. HippoBotamus pushing Solar Flare into the wall. That's what you want to do. I mean, that could be good for HippoBotamus right there if it's looking to win this fight. Do we think it won those second 2 minutes, though? The first minute has to go to Solar Flare because of the decapitation, in my opinion. And we're going to a judge's decision. Oh, no. I'm very interested to see what the judges think of this fight. I think Solar Flare won it, but I have no idea. Let's take a look at the replays though. From the beginning, Solar Flare was doing good. Almost got the control shot right there from HippoBotamus. This is where the head comes off. Blur your eyes, children. It's not a rated R movie over here. This is PG. Oh, Solar Flare did a good job in the first minute. But after HippoBotamus lost its head, it kind of was just a stalemate for a while. For the rest of the fight even. Very interesting to see. I don't know who won this fight, to be honest. Well, while we wait for the judges to figure out who won this fight, let's take a look at the statistics of this fight. We'll go minute by minute for this one, just because I'm curious to see what happened for this. I feel like HippoBotamus took a slight lead towards the end, but I'm not quite sure. So in minute number 1, we see Solar Flare with the 20 strikes. That is a big thing for this fight. Solar Flare is going to have the strike advantage because HippoBotamus cannot land strikes. I do think Solar Flare won minute number 1 just because HippoBotamus did not capitalize on any of the pins or flips that it could have done, and thus losing its head makes me think that minute number 1 went to Solar Flare. Minute number 2 seems like it also went to Solar Flare. We have 40 strikes by Solar Flare and that's it. And the only thing HippoBotamus did in minute number 2 was one pin or slam. In minute number 3, going to be interesting as well. It seems like Solar Flare may have edged it out, but you can see HippoBotamus came back with those 4 pins. Very interesting fight in my opinion. Obviously, when you look at the totals and the average, it seems like Solar Flare won the significant strikes and the strikes, while HippoBotamus won the flips and the pins. I don't know, that fight started out with me thinking Solar Flare was going to take it away easy, but it just didn't really blossom how I thought it would. In HippoBotamus's defense, it lost its face, which is a very important part to the weapon. I just don't think that what it did in those last 2 minutes was enough to win. But you also have to think, was what Solar Flare did in those last 2 minutes enough to win? I'm not quite sure. I feel like this one could be kind of close. But if I had to pick, I'm going to say Solar Flare is going to win this fight. I am also getting word that the judge's decision is in, so let's see who wins this fight. Ladies and gentlemen, after 3 minutes, we go to the judges' scorecards for their decision. The judges score this contest 30-27, 29-28, and 30-27 for the winner by unanimous decision. And moving on into round number 2, Solar Flare. Well, I guess I thought it was much closer than it actually was. 2 of the judges say unanimous decision win for Solar Flare to move on into the next round, which introduces our second matchup in round number 2. The 4-seed Solar Flare will take on the 5-seed Parallel Paradox. It was a pretty decent performance by Solar Flare, nothing too crazy in my opinion. I don't think after that fight that the 4-seed is going to be favorited to win the entire tournament now. However, it did a good job against what it had against it. HippoBotamus is a tough robot. It has a chin. It just doesn't have a face now though. And with that loss, it is being sent home. No more HippoBotamus in the Battle of the Rookies. For this matchup though, Solar Flare versus Parallel Paradox, I'm going to have to say Parallel Paradox might be the favorite to win that fight. If you're just basing it off of the last 2 robots' performances, but you gotta know Solar Flare, it's just an insane robot. It is very tough and it has a lot of damage output. I'm not quite sure if Parallel Paradox can win this fight, but I could see a lot of people thinking that it will. A very interesting thing that I could see happening in this fight is Solar Flare just completely taking off the wheels of Parallel Paradox on all 4 ends, which leads it to just sitting there and knocking it out, but I'm not quite sure. This is going to be an interesting matchup. I'm absolutely loving these first 2 fights thus far, and we have 2 more fights to fill in, and with our next fight, it should be interesting to see. Next up, we will see if the heavy underdog Nightman Cometh can somehow pull out a miracle against the favorite to win the tournament, Crimson Knights Blues. When the 2 horizontal spinners collide, we should be in for a treat. Here we go, our third fight of the night. The 1 seed, the favorite to win the tournament, is facing the number 16 seed. Can we see the first time ever where a 16 seed can win in round number 1? We have CKB taking on the robot fighting out of the red square, who is Nightman Cometh. As you can see, it's not doing so good driving right now. It has one wheel and a blade on the other end. That's how the robot is designed. I don't know if it can actually win this fight. It will be facing the favorite to win the entire tournament, the number 1 seed robot, Crimson Knights Blues. This robot is a deadly horizontal with powerful armor, and I'm very curious to see if it will win. 3, 2, 1. Let this fight begin. CKB, Nightman Cometh, and CKB very aggressive at the beginning, trying to do some damage, and it seems like Nightman Cometh is trying to, oh my goodness, oh, stuff is coming off of Nightman Cometh. The 16 seed is already on the ropes in the first 20 seconds of this fight, but oh, there goes part of the wheel. It will only take one more shot on that wheel to be completely eliminated. There it goes. That is the end of the fight. That right there. CKB just did it. Nightman Cometh cannot move anymore. If it leaves it alone, this fight is 100% over now. Oh, that's such a shame to see. Nightman Cometh tried its best, but when you only have one wheel, that's what you're gonna look like right there. Knocked out in a corner against the number 1 seed. CKB making sure that it's the number 1 seed title it has is where it should belong. As you can see from the very beginning of this fight, it just seems like it was complete dominance. The number 1 seed was relentless, as was most of the robots during this fight card so far, chipping off part of the wheel. Here's the shot. Oh, it comes to the camera, which just left Nightman Cometh sitting in the side of the arena. Another quick fight leads the number 1 seed moving on to round number 2, where we have our third matchup of round number 2 official. We will see Crimson Knights Blues taking on Counter Blitz, the 8 seed who took out Toxic Waste in round number 1. I am absolutely very much excited for that fight. I definitely could see either one of these robots winning, and I think it's a very tough draw for CKB in this one. However, Counter Blitz has exposed wheels on the side, which can lead to an easy knockout for CKB to win. It's unfortunate to see Nightman Cometh go like that. Honestly, I was rooting for it, to be honest, just because it's a weird robot and it's the underdog. You know, you gotta root for the underdog. But in this year's tournament, we will still see the number 1 seed move on from round number 1 to round number 2. We have one fight left between Prince Ali and the Gobbler. The winner will fight the 7 seed Frostwave. Let's see who wins. For the final fight of the night, we are treated to a flipper's delight. The heavy favorite, Prince Ali, will look to fling the Gobbler out of the arena quickly, while the Gobbler will look to remain calm and cause a huge upset. Oh, here we go, guys. Our last fight of round number 1. This is Prince Ali taking on the Gobbler, as you can see in the fight odds down below. 92% to 8%. I believe only one person has faith in the Gobbler on this fight. Fighting out of the red square, here it is, the Gobbler. It's a very illegal robot, let me tell you. Well, it's not even illegal. It's just, it does damage to itself. When it flips, it causes damage to itself. It's not efficient. I don't think it's gonna win this fight at all. It will be facing the robot that is an absolute gorgeous one. Fighting out of the blue square, we have Prince Ali. This flipper it's gorgeous. That's all I can say. Just look at it. 3, 2, 1. Let the final fight of round 1 begin. A Gobbler goes flying. Sparks are everywhere. Whoa. The Prince Ali is now upside down, flipped itself over. Gobbler trying to help it out a little bit, continuing this fight. The Gobbler pinned against the wall. Prince Ali seems to have the wedge ground clearance on this one, in my opinion. kind of hard to see. Yes, definitely. Prince Ali gets underneath, and that is why it's the number 2 seed. It just has to finish this fight. However, Gobbler gets underneath right there. Very interesting. I'm curious to see what's going to happen. If the robots can flip out of the arena walls might just be a little too high in this tournament. Based off the previous build of the game, a huge flip by Prince Ali twice, which sends the Gobbler flying multiple times. Another one, why not? The Gobbler almost flips itself out of the arena and now being pinned against the wall. Oh, it's looking really good for Prince Ali so far. It is kind of wasting a little bit of pneumatic juice right here, trying to save it for the remainder of the fight. Prince Ali is kind of underneath right now. They're kind of stuck on each other. Another flip, and we're just seeing a bunch of flips by Prince Ali almost out of the arena. The Gobbler goes flying. Ooh, very interesting. Like I was saying though, we might see a small turn as I say that. The Gobbler flips over Prince Ali just because it's an electric flipper. And now the pneumatic juices are kind of running out. Kind of. Maybe they are fully out. Who knows? We have over a minute left, and the Gobbler needs to pull something out of its hat right here. Prince Ali's doing a gorgeous pin right here, pushing the Gobbler against the wall, while the Gobbler is trying just to be aggressive in this one. Can't quite do anything. Gets a huge flip on Prince Ali, sends it against the wall. That's what it needs to do. 45 seconds left in this fight. And a huge shot, which caused some sort of shock damage to Prince Ali while it was upside down. Can Prince Ali move? Can it get out? I think it's trying to right now. But the Gobbler is just being aggressive in this one. The Gobbler turning around real quick. A shot against the wall, and Prince Ali is upside down. Can it self-right? We have a countdown beginning. 5 seconds left. Can Prince Ali get out of this? Are you kidding me? The number 2 seed upset. The 15 seed moves on to round number 2. The Gobbler actually pulled it out. Are you kidding me right now? I did not expect that. It started out the first like majority of this fight. This is what it was. Prince Ali flipping around the Gobbler completely, just making it look silly. Pinning it against the wall multiple times. It only had 9 seconds left in the fight. Are you kidding me right now? This is where things kind of started to change. Prince Ali ran out of juice, and then the Gobbler took control, flipped it upside down once, and this was the shot right there, which I believe damaged Prince Ali. Right there, that's the shot that damaged Prince Ali, and it could not self-right. I think it just ran out of juice for that one. Wow. And with that, the number 2 seed goes down. The 15 seed, the Gobbler, has moved on into round number 2, where it'll face the number 7 seed Frostwave. I can't get over this right now. Prince Ali, in my opinion, was winning that fight. It had 9 seconds to survive, and it didn't do it. It's unfortunate to see Prince Ali leave the tournament this early. We've seen a lot of really good robots not move on into round number 2, and I have a feeling it's because of the depth of competition in this year's Battle of the Rookies. It's going to be a very interesting matchup to see a flipper versus the horizontal. I have no idea what to expect out of it, to be honest. I do want to pull up one quick statistic for that fight. So here are the current stats for Prince Ali versus the Gobbler. Minute number 1 went to Prince Ali. Minute number 2 went to Prince Ali. We had 9 seconds remaining in minute number 3, which would have gone to the Gobbler. But if it went to a judge's decision, Prince Ali would have won that fight. It's crazy what happens. In just 9 seconds, Prince Ali would still be in the tournament. But instead, the Gobbler has won, pulled the biggest upset thus far in RoboMania Battle of the Rookies history and will now fight Frostwave. I've been saying the number 1 seed has never lost in round number 1. That also applies to the number 2 seed, which that is now broken. I honestly just didn't expect the Gobbler to win that fight, and here we are, watching the Gobbler be in the top 8 of these robots remaining. We have 2 upsets already for this tournament, and there is possibly a chance to see more. The Battle of the Rookies will continue next week as we see the round 2 robots fight it out to make it into the semifinals. 8 robots are left and only 1 can win. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know in the comments section below who you think is the biggest standout thus far and what matchup you are excited to see in round number 2. My name is Game and Soy, and as always, it was a pleasure, and I will see you all next time on the Battle of the Rookies.